I stared at the text message for a long, still moment, my fingers cold against the phone screen. I'm leaving. I can't raise a child with you. I'm in love with your best friend, and we are leaving for Florida. I took our savings. A part of me had always known this moment would come. I had felt it in the way he moved around the house, in the way his eyes flitted away when I caught him staring at his phone, in the distant, absent-minded kisses that tasted more like habit than love. But knowing it was coming didn't dull the blade as it sliced through my chest. I ran a hand over my swollen belly. Our child, my child, kicked softly as if sensing my turmoil. I closed my eyes and exhaled, steadying myself. My response was simple, just 2 words. Good luck. And with that I set my phone down. I didn't call him. I didn't cry. Smiled. Because he had no idea what I had done. Started with the cologne. The expensive, imported kind he never used before. The scent lingered on his clothes, different from the one he had always worn. I noticed the change in his routine. The sudden evening jogs that lasted a little too long, the work calls he took in another room, the newfound concern for his appearance. A gut feeling told me something was wrong. Then one night I saw the name on his phone screen, Lisa. My best friend. It was a casual text, something vague about dinner plans, but it was enough to make my stomach twist. A few nights later, I waited until he fell asleep, then carefully took his phone and scrolled through his messages. What I saw made my vision blur with rage. I can't wait to finally be with you. She's so clueless. She has no idea. I love you, baby. Florida is waiting. And then the worst one. I don't love Amanda anymore. I never did. My breath left me. My body shook with a fury I had never felt before. But instead of confronting him that night, I took a deep breath and did something much better. Planned. I wasn't going to let him walk away clean. No. I was going to make sure that when he left, he would regret it for the rest of his miserable life. First, the money. He thought he was clever, secretly siphoning our savings into a separate account. What he didn't know was that I had already transferred the bulk of our joint funds into a different account under my name only weeks before. Every paycheck he deposited went into what he thought was our shared savings, but that account now had exactly $3.42 in it. Then the house. He assumed we both owned it together. We didn't. My name was the only one on the deed. I had inherited it from my grandmother, but I let him believe that he had some claim to it, that he could come back if he ever changed his mind. He couldn't. Next, his career. His job depended on maintaining a squeaky clean reputation. I had gathered every piece of evidence I needed. Texts, emails, even voice recordings of his late-night calls with Lisa. If the world ever needed to see how much of a lying, cheating scumbag he was, I had the receipts. And finally, Lisa, my best friend, my betrayer. I didn't rage at her. I didn't send angry texts or confront her in person. No, that would be too easy. Instead, I watched, listened. I learned everything I needed to know about her dirty little secrets, the ones she thought no one knew. The unpaid debts, the shoplifting from her old retail job, the petty fraud. I stored every bit of information like a weapon, waiting for the perfect moment. And then I waited. Waited for him to think he was in control. Waited for him to think he was leaving me behind, escaping to paradise with my best friend and my stolen savings, only to realize, too late, that he was walking into ruin. The night before he left, I cooked his favorite meal. I set the table, lit candles, played soft music. I wanted him to feel safe. I wanted him to think that I was still the clueless, adoring wife. He didn't say much, just kept glancing at his phone under the table, probably texting Lisa. I smiled sweetly at him, every part of me burning with the knowledge of what he was about to do. That night, as he fell asleep next to me for the last time, I whispered softly in the dark, "Enjoy Florida, darling." Then I closed my eyes and slept like a baby. The next morning I woke up alone. His closet was empty. His side of the bed was cold. I checked my phone and there it was, his final message. "I'm leaving. I can't raise a child with you. I'm in love with your best friend, and we are leaving for Florida. I took our savings. I could almost hear the smugness in his voice, the arrogance. He thought he had won. He thought he had outplayed me. He had no idea. I typed my response. Good luck. Then I turned off my phone, poured myself a cup of coffee, and waited for the fireworks to begin. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee, waiting for the inevitable storm. It wouldn't take long. For a moment, I imagined his expression when he reached the airport and tried to withdraw cash from the ATM. The way his confident smirk would falter when the screen flashed. Insufficient funds. Would he try again? Maybe check the banking app on his phone, expecting to see the thousands of dollars he thought he had taken from me? His pulse quickening as reality hit. There was nothing there. Nothing but a single transaction. Transferred to Amanda C. Miller. $48,217.94. I bet his hands were shaking now. And Lisa. Oh, sweet, backstabbing Lisa. I wondered if she had a backup plan for when she realized she had hitched herself to a sinking ship. It was all unfolding beautifully. But the money was just the beginning. It happened around noon. My phone vibrated on the table as I finished a leisurely breakfast. James. I didn't answer. I let it ring until it stopped, then waited. 5 minutes later, another call. Then another. Desperation was setting in. I smirked, placing my phone on silent. He could stew in his own panic for a while. He deserved it. Instead, I turned on the news. And there it was. The next phase of my plan. A breaking report on James Miller, an employee at Hamilton & Company, under internal investigation for financial misconduct. You see, while James was busy sneaking around with my best friend, I had been busy collecting evidence of a few questionable transactions he had made at work. He had funneled company money into personal accounts, thinking no one would notice. Noticed. And so did his bosses, because I made sure of it. By the time he landed in Florida, his company email would be locked, his name tarnished, and his job, his entire career, hanging by a thread. My phone vibrated again. I ignored it. The next call wasn't from James. It was from Lisa. I almost laughed. She had no idea that she was about to be hit from all sides. I let her call go to voicemail, then listened to her frantic message. Amanda, please call me back. I swear I didn't know he was going to do this. He told me you knew about us. I'm so sorry. Please, we need to talk. I deleted it without a second thought. Lisa had spent months lying to my face, smiling over coffee dates while sleeping with my husband. She didn't get to beg now. Instead, I pulled up an email draft I had prepared weeks ago and hit send. To City of Miami Police Department. Subject: Fraudulent Activity Report. Lisa Simmons. I had documented everything. The unpaid debts, the fake credit applications, the shoplifting incident that had somehow never made it to her permanent record. It was all detailed, neat, and enough to get authorities to start sniffing around. Lisa wanted a fresh start in Florida. She could have it, with a court date attached. It wasn't until late afternoon that I finally picked up one of James's calls. The moment I said hello, he erupted. Amanda, what the hell did you do? I sipped my tea. I have no idea what you're talking about, I said innocently. The money, he choked. Our savings. Oh, I said lightly. You mean my savings? There was a pause. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, trying to piece together how things had gone so terribly wrong. You took everything, he breathed. No, I corrected. I took back what was already mine. You just assumed it was yours to steal. Silence. Then his voice turned sharp. You won't get away with this. I laughed, a real genuine laugh. I already did. I let the silence stretch. Let him feel the weight of his defeat. Then I delivered the final blow. By the way, I said sweetly, you might want to check the news. And then, before he could respond, I hung up. I could imagine him scrambling for his phone, his fingers trembling as he opened his browser and saw the headlines. His name, splashed across the news in a scandal that would cost him everything. The weight of his own choices crashing down on him like an avalanche. He had destroyed our marriage. I had simply made sure that his new life started exactly how he deserved, with nothing. That night, I stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. For the first time in a long time, I felt light. No more waiting for the other shoe to drop. No more living in the shadow of a man who never truly loved me. My baby kicked, a soft reminder of the future ahead. A future that was mine. James thought he could erase me from his life with a single text message. Instead, I had erased him from mine. For good. The night was quiet. Too quiet. No more phone calls. No more desperate messages. Just silence. I knew what that meant. James had finally realized the full extent of what I had done. He wasn't just broke. He wasn't just unemployed. He wasn't just stranded in a new state with a woman who was now more of a liability than a lover. He was ruined. And I was finally free. By morning, news of James's financial misconduct had spread like wildfire. His boss at Hamilton and Company issued an official statement announcing his immediate termination, pending further legal review. That wasn't just a job loss. That was a career death sentence. His phone calls had stopped completely. I assumed he was too busy trying to salvage what was left of his life. Except there was nothing left. And Lisa, well, she had her own problems. I received an update from a contact I had in Florida, an old college friend who worked in law enforcement. Lisa had been picked up for questioning regarding financial fraud. Apparently, the evidence I had sent to the authorities was enough to reopen an old case against her. She had thought she got away with it. She hadn't. I wasn't surprised when, 2 weeks later, I received an email from James. He had no money, no job, nowhere to go. Lisa had left him the moment she realized he wasn't the golden ticket she thought he was. She abandoned him in a cheap Florida motel, took what little cash he had left, and disappeared. Now he wanted to talk. Amanda, I made a mistake. Please, I need to see you. I was wrong about everything. I read his words, savoring the irony. This was the same man who had left me with a text message. The same man who had tried to take everything from me. And now, he wanted me back. I clicked delete. 3 months passed. Focused on myself, my pregnancy, my future. James had faded into irrelevance. Exactly where he belonged. Then, one afternoon, I received a package in the mail. No return address. Just my name written in a shaky, desperate hand. Inside, I found an old photograph, our wedding picture. A faded, crumpled reminder of a life that no longer existed. On the back, scribbled in ink, were the words, "I lost everything." I stared at the note for a moment. Then, without hesitation, I threw it in the trash. James was right. He had lost everything. And I had won. For the first time in a long time, I was truly, completely happy. The day my son was born, I held him close, breathing in his warmth, his innocence. This was our fresh start. A life without betrayal, without deceit. A life on our terms. James had chosen his fate. And I had chosen mine. I kissed my baby's forehead, whispering softly, "We are free." And we were. Forever. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.